I'm like,
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I'll keep checking it. And also we were helping with exercise in school, and I know how to use like.
So hello everybody. Thank you for coming on this Monday. What a Monday activity. I have written a speech. I don't want to read it to you, but I'm going to anyway. So here we go. So I want us, like when we're in here, I want us to play a little game. And you can just play it for the duration of the speech or the whole time. But the thought is that we're in our living rooms. We're with our very best friends. We were going to watch a video, but we got to talking. And now we're feeling real deep, right? You start to feel like maybe you're the deepest one. Maybe you're like a shaman. And you're like, it man. And like you feel like if your teachers or somebody saw how it you were right now, you would be acclaimed. And you would feel valued and like you had something to offer. And so you guys know Oprah? So Oprah has The Secret, right? And you make your visualization boards and you see what you want. And what I always think about just every day is villages. And I want a village. Because in a village, like the cobbler is it. He makes the shoes. And the artists are the artists. And it's just a simplicity. And I don't want to be like caveman, like man, woman. Ugh. But I do want things like the Beatniks in Greenwich Village and NWC in Compton and Andy Warhol's factory where it's like 12 people surrounded by 50 people, surrounded by 100 people, filtering out, and they know each other and they feed off of each other. And the village itself has its own notoriety as itself. It doesn't need the distribution. And so I think if we play this little, because there's a big game, and we're all doing it, and it's embarrassing. We're all trying to get bigger and go to cities that matter. But if we also play here as if this city matters, not only do we get to have inherent self-worth that breaks the system, we also just get to have a lot of fun. And that's what the Peztilence is. It's the virus of valuing ourselves. So we're going to do some Tumblr self-love and have a good goddamn time. Tell your friends, thank you for coming. And our first comic is from Matt Calvert, and it's going to blow you away. Matt Calvert graduated from CCAD in 2010, and it feels so good to be back. He has been self-publishing comics ever since 2015. That's crazy, I didn't know that. That's when we started at the same time. Beginning with his 120-page German expressionist goth rock magnum opus, in which the heart betrays the blood. A series of many comic sequels to that piece followed until 2018, when he began work on, how do you say it? Perspicax. The project we will glimpse tonight. Thank you for your patience and your patronage. I highly suggest you buy Matt's books. They are stellar. And to read Matt's comic is my good friend Jessica Turan, who is just warm and solid and just fantastic. So thank you, Jess. Let's bring her up. Yeah,
wait, what are we doing?
You can close that out. Or you
Okay. Did you open this in Adobe? Like, how did you open yours in Adobe?
Yeah, I went to.
He set it to the default, so it should do it.
Oh, you did? Okay. Perspicax, A Work in Progress by M. Calvert. Perspicax is a talisman of doubt, a secular, skeptical spellbook of chaos, reaching out to lift the veil of certitude behind which hides the world's full beauty. It's also a textbook, an object intended to convey academic and edifying information to you, the student. Let's begin the first incision. Scalpel. Perspicax 1. The senses, the state. The state is essentially an apparatus of compulsion and coercion. The characteristic feature of its activities is to compel people through the application or the threat of force to behave otherwise than they would like to behave. While the state exists, there can be no freedom. When there is freedom, there will be no state. In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. It is because we are predominantly purposeful beings that we are perpetually correcting our immediate sensations. But men are free not to be utilitarianly purposeful. They can sometimes be artists, for example, in which case they may like to accept the immediate sensation uncorrected because it happens to be beautiful. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. Nothing is true, all is permitted. So said I to myself. Into the coldest water did I plunge with head and heart. We are born into a complex world with specific rules and expectations. People who won't conform to the rules are penalized, stigmatized, and censored by the state. Everything is orderly because order is the state's primary concern. Order is the state's primary concern, and order is a lie. The beauty of a lie is that someone's guaranteed to believe it, either because they don't know better or because they want the lie to be true. The state is relentless with its litany of lies, and its enormity makes it impossible to silence. That's not a problem. We don't fight lies with censorship. We fight lies with truth. For one thing, the very existence of the state is a lie. There's a constitution, a piece of land, a flag, and a lot of people wearing uniforms, from the Marine Corps to the Postal Service, who claim to work on its behalf. The state is just a symbol, a ghost. One must remember the state as we know it today's origin in the church. God and country were once one and the same, and neither one was ever real. The legitimacy and persuasive power sought by parties like the state and religious sects predicated on lies, because these groups have nothing commensurate to offer and conversely demand hideous concessions from the citizens and parishioners. Accept no order that impugns your cognitive autonomy. Freedom is chaos, and chaos is subject to change. I'm inviting you to observe an autopsy. Witness firsthand the skin stripped clean from the muscle, the apparatus unveiled and demystified. Reading this book is like a visit to the optometrist. I have an object with a bunch of different lenses I'm going to ask you to look through. We may find a lens that helps you see the world in a sharper focus than you did before. I'm not implying that there's something wrong with your vision, but until you've looked through my apparatus, you can't be certain that there isn't. I used to work as a photographer's assistant. One time, the camera we were using's motor started to malfunction. It couldn't autofocus. The photographer flipped the switch, twisted the inner ring, and closed the shutter. Ha! I can pull a sharper focus than the motor. Take a look at that. He showed me the screen. The image was so blurry it looked like the object was 10 inches underwater. I hope I'm right where the river ice ends. Coincidentally, our company's medical insurance had recently begun covering vision. Soon after this, the photographer went to see an optometrist for the first time in his life. He found out that he was nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other, which, one eye compensating for the other, left him with adequate binocular vision. But using either eye independently as one uses an SLR camera's viewfinder, his capacity was diminished. The autofocus motor carried him for years. What you perceive is just that, your perception. What is, that's something not necessarily different, but almost certainly more complex. Sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. These are the senses we use to interact with the external world, the way we receive information, and the vehicles through which the external world plays upon us. Velocity, equilibrium, nausea. There are several sensations that aren't housed comfortably under the umbrella of the classic five senses. When referring to the five, I like to substitute touch with feel. You feel a lot of things, not always with your hands. Sensation, as in feeling, you can feel your own equilibrium. You can sense yourself moving, sense, sensation, sensitivity. Sometimes we're made numb by overstimulation. I have tinnitus, a constant ringing in my ears. Sometimes the endless ambient hum makes other external drones less apparent. Have you ever been on a long car ride alone and felt overcome by the silence? I have, but only because as time went by, the hum of the engine and the rumble of the tires on the road merged with my tinnitus and all fell below my horizon of awareness. Let's not forget the fact that you can feel emotions too. I don't mean feel in a metaphysical or metaphorical way. When you push down on your brake pedal, the car doesn't stop and you're careening towards the stationary vehicle in front of you, you feel fear. At least I did. My whole body tightened and my abdomen felt hollow and sour. Maybe my fear and the sensations I felt weren't one and the same. I think that the physical sensations were caused by the intensity of the emotion and the jostling realness of it all. I'm trying to undermine your assumptions and urge you to consider the broadest possible spectrum of subjectivity. You can only see through your own eyes, hear through your own ears, and feel your own sensations. A poet makes himself a visionary through a long, boundless, and systematized derangement of all the senses. All forms of love, of suffering, of madness, he searches himself. He exhausts within himself all poisons and preserves their quintessence senses. My interpretation of Rimbaud's derangement edict is that through systemic, persistent, regimented derangement, subverting, belaboring, exhausting, the poet, or seer, or anyone can cultivate an individual vision. The notion of an individual vision seems to contradict the very notion of truth, and that may be the point. In the context of poetry, Rimbaud's arena, objectivity is meaningless anyway. For our purposes here, the derangement edict, as I will call it, is just a reminder that the senses can be manipulated and are therefore subjective and fallible. A poet embraces their subjectivity and, through that fertilizing embrace, gestates personal truths, born into the world as art.
See the punk that we're doing? No, that was amazing. I have to remember to ask you a question in the interview. We're gonna have an interview at the end. That's gonna be very nice. All right. Okay, so our next reader is like, gosh darn. Okay, so when I see his work, I see like so much. I don't want to say zeitgeist. I'm gonna say zeitgeist. He sees what's happening. He's playing with it. He owns it. The amount of different eras that like time eras that converge in his works, and just create this like melody of like just crazy interesting stuff is just delicious. And so next up is Freddie. Thank you. Yeah, do you think?
Oh wait, no, that was technically an intro. So.
I didn't know you had an intro.
It's okay. It's all fine. I don't need to do all that. Do the intro?
Yeah.
Okay. It's really quick. I'm gonna explain myself before I read this crazy ass comic to you guys. My name is Freddie. No, I graduated in 2018. And ever since I've graduated, I've kind of just been spending time doing cartooning and making stickers and animating and stuff. And the reason why I made this